Hi, this is Wes KF4BSB on the forums, and this is installment number 2 of the UZI build we're doing. And at the end of the first UZI build video, I had said that we were going to do some cleaning on this and take it apart, and that you guys probably didn't want to watch me scrub it with non-chlorinated brake cleaner or simple green or any of those things. And you probably don't, but what I realized was there's some parts we need to take off in order to really clean it well. So I thought I would take some time to show you how to take those parts off. Also, I did get the new receiver this week. Went and picked that up. Can you see that okay? And it looks really nice. And this is the one by D&D Sales. There's a link on the website, and I'll put a link up here. And if you can take a look, and if you could zoom in right here, this is why this has to go through an FFL. This is considered a receiver, and there's all the manufacturing information on it and the serial number and those kinds of things. Now, like I was telling you last week, you can buy this as a flat. When we get around to building this receiver, we'll talk more about the options for getting a receiver. Some people weld them up from cut receivers and whatnot. But this is the receiver, or more accurately I call it the receiver shell, because there's nothing in it, and we're going to have to move some components over, and we're actually going to end up cutting this one and all kinds of things. So there's the receiver. Alright, if we'll go back to these parts that are on the table real quick and take a look at those, there are some things we need to do to kind of get these things taken apart and cleaned up as well as we can. Now, if you're transferring pieces over, you'd have to do this. I think it's a good idea to do this, to go ahead and clean things up and make sure they're good and clean before you start going back with the assembly. So the first thing we're going to take a look at is we're going to take a look at this rear section, and we're going to take out the rear sight. So let's go ahead and get started with that. Yeah. Now, if you look real careful, and I hope the lighting can get it. Can you see those numbers?
No. A little bit. They're like faded.
Alright. But here's the original serial number that's on it. Here are the original markings in Hebrew. And here's part of the IMI stamp that is on here. So we're going to try to reuse this piece, the entire piece, so that we can save all those. But what we're interested in right now is this rear sight, and this rear sight is a flip-up sight. Can you see that really good? Mm-hmm. Okay. And so we're going to take care of getting this sight off right now and show you how to do that. It's actually pretty easy. If you turn it here on the side, there's actually a screw, runs all the way through, and all you have to do is take a small screwdriver and unscrew it. Apologize if you can't see it. I gotta get my hands in here so I can actually get it apart. Alright, and now we should just be able to work this pin out, and the sight's gonna fall right out with no problem. Now, the next thing we need to do is take off the latch cover. And this is the latch, the cover latch, let me put it that way. And here's how we're going to do it. There's actually 2 springs in there. There's 3 parts we're worried about. We're worried about this latch itself, and up under here is a leaf spring and a coil spring. And so we need to take both of those out. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to hold this in your weak hand, and we're going to press this down with our thumb, and we're going to insert the screwdriver under there and pry this up. And when we do it, it'll release the leaf spring and the coil spring, and we'll be able to take it right off. Okay, so you may not be able to see this well, because I'm going to have to turn this around so I can work on it, but that's how you do it. So I'm going to turn this around, I'm going to press down on the latch, and I'm going to put a screwdriver blade in there, and I'm going to pry it up. Put your finger on the top to catch it, and you can see when it comes open, here's the top. It's a leaf spring is all it is. Here's the coil spring. It goes on the inside. And of course, let me just see if I can push it out. There's the latch. So, here's the rear part of the old receiver, the original receiver. Here is the actual latch. There's the leaf spring top. There's the coil spring that pushes that latch in and out. There's the rear sight. And there's the screw that holds the sight in. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of these and put these in a Ziploc baggie with a little shot of WD-40 after I clean them up. And to clean, you can use brake cleaner, brake fluid cleaner. And the way that I would do this is I would put it in a shallow bowl and take a brush and a little bit of chlorine-free brake fluid cleaner and clean them up, and then have you a nice big tub of warm water and just drop them down into that warm water, and then kind of as a rinse. Now when you do that, rinse them off when you finish with all the parts, take them out, dry them off, and hit them with a little bit of penetrating oil, put them in some Ziploc bags so that they won't rust on you in the meantime. So if you were going to take this and put this, instead of trying to weld this on, just use these parts on the new receiver, you would have to take out this little U-shaped section right here, because that would be the base that would need to be welded into the receiver, and I'll show you all that when we start on the receiver build. So that's it for the rear sight. Next we'll move and we'll take a look at the front sight, and I'll show you what needs to be done there. Now that we've taken care of the rear section, we're going to take a look at the front section. And what you can see here, this is the front section of the cut receiver that came in the parts kit, and here's the threaded part that this barrel nut goes on to. Now let me show you what we're going to do with this. Here is the new receiver, okay, and you can see this is the corresponding piece. Now these slots here are so that you can weld in a new trunnion, and this hole here so that you can weld in a new sight plate. Of course, hopefully what we're going to do is we're just going to cut this and transfer this piece over. We're not going to have to worry about all that. Just wanted to show you that for reference. But let me show you what we have going on. With this piece here, if we take a look inside, this is the barrel trunnion. That's what holds the barrel in place. Or this gun only has one, so it's you could call it a front trunnion, I guess. But there's your barrel trunnion. Barrel runs through there. And the barrel actually has a ring on it, or a collar. So what happens is when you slide the barrel in, the collar mates up to here, and then this nut screws on to hold everything in place. Now, this nut, this barrel nut, has serrations on the inside edge. Now you're not going to be able to see those probably on the video, but those serrations engage into this spring-loaded catch. When it tightens it down, this catch keeps it from backing off. And in order to get the barrel out, if you need to change it out for any reason, you have to depress this before backing off the barrel nut. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this out. And the way we're going to do it, and again, you're probably not going to be able to see this very well on the camera, is if you look on the inside, there's a little clip right here. Can you see that? Probably not. But what we're going to do is we're going to take and hold this in our left hand, and we're going to just kind of pinch this piece. And then we're going to take our screwdriver and we're going to depress the latch from the back. Just press down on it and pull it out. Now there's a spring in there, so be careful. You don't want that spring to go flying. So give us a second here, let's see if we can do it. I'll pinch that, I'll push down with the screwdriver. And it is not wanting to come out, it is in there tight. can get some leverage going here. No, still not wanting to move. I think part of the problem is the angle I'm trying to work on this at. But now that I've told you how to do it, you have to press down on the latch while pulling out here. Let me see if I can get it and we'll be right back. Okay, we managed to get it out. It took a minute. We had to finagle it a little bit, but when I pull it out, I think you'll see what I was talking about. There's the spring, and there's the little catch. You can see it's a, let me take the spring out of the way. You can see it's a little catch. And to put it back in, you just push it in, and when you do, it catches. Well, what we had to do is we had to depress this while pulling on it to get it to come out. And we were able to do that. It just took a little bit more work than we were comfortably able to film, but we got it out. So, barrel nut retaining lever and the spring going into a Ziploc baggie. Now, the last thing that's left on this front piece to clean and take off is this sight. Now, you could probably get that sight out with a pair of pliers or a screwdriver or something like that, but you're probably going to mess it up if you try. So there is a special tool for this. It costs between $15 and $20 depending on where you get it. I think you can get one at Apex Guns, and I'll put a link up for them. If Apex Guns doesn't have it, you just do a Google search for UZI front sight tool, and you'll be able to find it. There's actually two versions of it. You want the one that's kind of round, and as soon as I do get that in, I will show that to you. I'll go ahead and do as much cleaning up as I can beforehand, but when that comes in, I'll show it to you and we'll get it taken off. My main aim was to take this completely apart so it can be cleaned and oiled. And then the other thing is, I don't want all those parts on there when we're welding them. That's just personal preference. Probably wouldn't hurt a thing for you to leave all these parts on if you were welding it. I don't know. It's been my experience. It's always better to get as much off as you can before you start welding. I seem to run into less problems. So we've got this all finished up. We're going to take and clean it up a good bit. I'm also going to look, and I don't know how well you can see it, these welds here are not the prettiest things in the world that were on the original. We're going to work on cleaning those up when we start putting this thing back together, and maybe filling some of them in and doing some grinding and getting them looking really nice when we finish this. So that's all we have to do on the front piece. Now let's move on to the trigger group. Moving on to the trigger group here and fire control group. If I can get you to zoom in real quick, you can see this is one of the things I like about this kit, is that it still has the items in Hebrew. Let me tilt this up a little bit so you can see it. The safe and the fire, or safe and semi-auto and full auto, are in Hebrew. Right now the selector is at semi-automatic. So what we're going to do is we're going to start disassembling this for you. And the first thing we're going to do is take off the pistol grips, and they are secured with simple slot screws. So I'm going to take those out. There's two of them. There's the first one. You may see my dog pop up in here in just a second. We got a couple of dogs running around in here. And there is the second one. The back one falls away. There it is. And then let's pop this front one off. Should be able to. One second. That's not wanting to pop off. There we go. Now it's popped off. Got a little bit of gunk holding it in there, it looks like. And what we're going to do is we're going to take off the firing handle safety spring first. Just do that with your fingers. Out it comes. Alright, so now we're going to start moving to the inside. We'll take this off as well, but we're not going to take it off right this second. It's real easy to do. I'll show you how to do it. But let's take a look inside of this pistol grip at firing control group and all the other things here. So this piece up here is the sear, and whoops, just flipped forward. And first thing we're going to do is work on getting that out. Now here is the sear, here is the pin running through that holds the sear, and here's the springs for the sear. Now these springs attach on the side of the sear into little holes, so you can take your screwdriver and just kind of pop those out. There's one, and there's two. So now we've got the spring off the sear. There's no tension on this sear anymore. Now we got to get the pin out. What I want to show you is that this pin has a screw on it. Now it doesn't screw out. There's a flat on it, and when you're orienting these pins to put them back in, that screw's there so that you can get the flats lined up. So what you really need to do is, if you push pressure on this side of the pin while rotating it over here, typically you can get them to come right out. I may need a pin, may need a punch to push it on this one. Bear with me just a second here. Get another look at this. I know you can't see my hands in the way. Let's see here. Not wanting to budge. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a punch. 1 second here. Just something to put a little bit more pressure on it, kind of pop it loose. I'm actually going to use the wrong end of the punch. Just the screws up, or the pins up I should say. So I'll tell you what, let's take a break real quick. Let me sit up, kind of take a look at it, shine a good light down in there, see what's going on, and I'll be right back. Alright guys, it took a little bit of wiggling and a little bit of finessing, but we finally got it, and we got it pushed loose, and the pin's going to come right out on this side. Then the spring, and then the sear. So that's the first component we took out. Take a look at these. Here's your sear. This has to be replaced. This is a full auto sear, and it is going to have to be replaced. Spring, of course, we can still use that spring, not a problem. And the pin, of course, we'll be able to use the pin as well. So there's the first issue. First obstacle is down. Second obstacle is going to be right here. We're going to start looking right around the trigger. Oh, there's the dog. here's all the areas of the trigger. Now, there's two springs here, one here and one here. Can you see those? And what you're going to do is they're held on by a little horseshoe looking thing. So all you're going to do is you're going to take your screwdriver and you're going to push straight back and push down on that spring and it'll unhook it. Well, there we go. One's unhooked. So you push down and to the side and it unhooks it. Down and to the side. Ta-da. Let me come all the way over. Now they're both unhooked. You can see the trigger's just kind of flopping there. So we're going to get this one out the same way, or at least we're going to try. We'll see how well this works this time. Obviously we had a little bit of issue last time, but it should come right out this time. So let's see what happens. We're going to turn it while putting pressure on it. And we should be able to get it right out. Now, I'm having to work on this again at a very odd angle for me. So bear with me just a second, we'll get it. I tell you what, give me a second, let me get it, work on this at a comfortable angle and I'll bring it right back. But all we're doing is we're putting pressure on this side while we're rotating this side. And when those flats get lined up, they'll be able to pop right out. You shouldn't have this much trouble. Again, I'm kind of leaning over at a very strange angle for me. So if you'll just bear with me a moment, we'll get that taken care of for you.
You're on.
Okay, well, my dog's going to put his face in this thing. But this was stuck in there pretty good, so a little bit of grime. But we turned it so that the flat matched up on the hole, and now it is sliding out. You can wiggle it and it'll come right out. So that pins out, and now we can lift out the trigger, and we can lift out the spring, and we can also go ahead and lift out part of the safety latch, and we can take out the palm safety. So now, and here's the parts we just took out. This is the palm safety, it just came out. This is the trigger, it just came out. And you'll notice those are the little ears that were on there that were holding springs down. Here's a spring for the trigger, and this is also part of the select fire slide system. So all those come right out. Now, if you look in here, it's pretty empty at this point. What is left is our safety button, and this one seems to move well. It's a little tight, but we'll get it cleaned up and see what happens. And when it moves, there's this bar right here. You'll see it move down, and you'll see it move back up. And we're actually going to have to weld a piece in here to keep it from going forward to the fully auto position. It is one of the things that you have to do. There's no way about it, no way to get around it. Now, the way we're going to take this off is, if you look, I don't know if you can see it very well or not, right here on this side there is a lever. You can kind of see it here. You can see it moving back and forth. And what we're going to do literally is we're just going to work it up. I'm going to grab this in right here, and I'm going to grab this in right here, and I'm just going to pull on it. Ta-da! And out it came. You can see it right there. It came out. Here is the button from the other side, and there is a leaf spring that went flying that my daughter is going to pick up for us. That kind of holds it all together. And so all you do is you lift up on it, it comes right out. There you go. So this is your whole safety system at this point. So we'll move it over. Now this is completely disassembled as far as your fire control group goes. There's nothing left in here. You're looking straight down the magazine well. The only thing left on the handle here is going to be your magazine release. And your magazine release is simply held in with a pin. It can be pushed out. This particular one, I believe, is going to push from, well, you need to check it first to make sure it's not one of the riveted ones, because they did rivet some of these in. This one is not, and so I just pushed the pin on that side, and I'm going to try and pull it on the other side. I'm not going to be able to pull it with my fingers, it's just a little bit too tight. So if you either had a pair of pliers, you could probably get it out. If you had a tiny little punch, I don't know if this is actually a nail punch. Let's see if we can get that out for you. Well, what I'm going to do is I'll get a pair of pliers here in just a moment and finish pulling this out. And when I do, you will see that there's a spring under here, and it will come out. Don't lose that spring. And then you'll be able just to go ahead and put this in the bag. Whoops, there we go. I was able to see the pin then. Pushed it the rest of the way out. Go ahead and pull it. Lift this up. And there you go. There's the spring, magazine release, and the pin for that as well. So now this is completely disassembled. We'll be able to go ahead and get everything just super clean. We're going to clean it up. We're going to use simple green this time. We're going to use the method I talked about before. And we'll go ahead and get all of our parts cleaned, and then we will start the reassembly. And I'm going to clean up all the parts. The part we worked on last week as well, and some of the other things that don't really have to be modified. Actually, let me show you one more piece and tell you what we're going to do. Just real quick, is this spring. We're going to be able to reuse this spring, but what we have to do is to cut this end off. Now this end is fiber. It's not metal or anything like that, and you can just take a pair of diagonal cutters and cut it, and it'll come right off. And so we will do that. We'll do that before you see us again. I think if you're smart enough to take on building your own UZI, I think you can figure out how to use a pair of diagonal cutters just to cut through a little piece of fiber board and take that off. So anyway, we've reduced all the parts down to bags of parts that we can. We're going to clean them up now. We're going to use simple green this time, I believe, to do it. We'll get it as clean as possible. I'm going to evaluate these grips. They are a little beat up. They look okay, but they're a little beat up. I don't believe I'm going to be able to really clean these up that much. And so what we'll do is we'll take them, we'll evaluate those though, and we'll see how clean they come. There is an American company, a U.S. company that makes these. They look identical. I may use those as replacements. And there's my dog in the shot. And that would count toward my 922R parts count as well. So we may end up doing that. I'm not sure. We'll just have to see how it comes out. So we hope you've enjoyed following along. I invite you to go by the website, myuzibuild.weebly.com. Take a look at what we're doing. We'll be blogging things there. I always post a new blog when we get a new video link up and things like that. So check that out. Let us know what you think. Give us some feedback. If you've got some questions, just send them to me and we'll do our best to get them answered for you. Until next time, hope you have fun. We'll see you then.